I was folding my laundry in my small one-bedroom apartment when my phone rang. It wasn't a call I was expecting. It was Tony Vasquez, the property manager who handles my rental units, the man who has worked for me for 15 years, the man who never, ever calls during his lunch break unless something is very, very wrong. "Mrs. Chen," he said, his voice tight. "We have a situation. Your son was just here at the Coral Gables property. He brought his wife and a lawyer. They're claiming you have dementia and they're trying to evict Mrs. Rodriguez." My hands stopped mid-fold, a worn cotton pillowcase hanging limp between my fingers. Kevin. My son Kevin was trying to evict my tenants. Before I tell you what happened next, and how one phone call exposed a plan so twisted it nearly broke what was left of my family, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your location in the comments, and please hit that like button and subscribe if you believe that the quietest people often hold the loudest power. I stood there in my tiny apartment, the afternoon Miami sun bleeding through my thin curtains. This apartment, this simple, humble space that my son Kevin always looked at with such barely concealed disgust. This was the life he saw, the life of a tired old nurse, living on a fixed income in a modest building in Hialeah, a woman who took the bus to save money, a woman who clipped coupons, a woman who wore the same nurse's shoes until the soles wore through. This was the story I had carefully maintained for 20 years. He had no idea what existed beyond this careful facade. He had no idea who his mother really was. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Tony, slow down." What exactly did Kevin say? He walked in with Crystal and some guy in a suit. They had paperwork. "Mrs. Chen, they had a medical report claiming you're no longer competent to manage your properties. They said you don't even know you own these buildings. They said you think you're still working at the hospital." I looked around my small apartment. The second-hand furniture, the old television I'd bought at a yard sale, the framed photo of my late husband David on the mantel, taken back when we were still saving every penny to buy our first rental property. Kevin had no idea. None at all. "What did you tell them?" I asked, my voice steady. "I told them I managed these properties for a trust. I told them I couldn't discuss ownership without proper authorization. But Mrs. Chen, they're not backing down." Kevin left his card. He said he'd be back tomorrow with a court order. A court order. My son was going to court. Against me. Against his own mother. "Tony," I said, my voice quiet now, "don't do anything yet. Don't call anyone. I need you to do exactly as I say. First, I need you to pull the tenant files for all 15 properties. Second, I need you to schedule a property viewing at the Coral Gables building tomorrow at 2 p.m. Tell Kevin you've been authorized to show him the property management records. Tell him the trust representative will be there." "The trust representative?" Tony paused. "Very sure." I hung up the phone and walked to my bedroom closet. I pushed past my worn nursing scrubs, past the simple dresses I wore to church. I reached to the very back, behind a stack of shoeboxes, and pulled out a leather portfolio I hadn't touched in 5 years. Inside were the deeds. All 15 of them. Coral Gables, South Beach, Coconut Grove, Brickell. Properties I'd bought one by one over 30 years. Starting with a tiny duplex David and I purchased with our savings in 1985. My son thought I was poor. He thought his mother was just a retired nurse, living off Social Security and a small pension. He remembered the day I retired from Jackson Memorial Hospital. I told him I was comfortable. In his world, comfortable meant barely scraping by. It meant I had just enough to pay rent, and maybe, if I was careful, enough to leave him a small inheritance when I died. He had no idea that comfortable meant 15 rental properties worth $8 million. He had no idea that his mother wasn't waiting to die. She was building an empire. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that Kevin genuinely believed he was helping me. He thought he was protecting his confused, declining mother from herself. That's what made this so much more painful than simple greed. Or at least, that's what I wanted to believe. I sat down on my bed, the leather portfolio heavy in my lap. I thought about my son, About the boy who used to help me collect rent checks when he was 12, who used to say he wanted to be just like his father, a real estate investor. About the man he'd become, a struggling realtor who'd married Crystal, a woman who posted photos of designer handbags while their credit cards maxed out, a man who'd stopped visiting his mother unless he needed something. Last month, for the first time in a year, Kevin called me. Not on my birthday, not on Mother's Day. He called to invite me to Thanksgiving dinner. "Mom," he'd said, his voice sugary sweet, "Crystal and I want you to spend the holiday with us. It's been too long. We miss you." I'd known something was wrong then. Kevin never missed me. Kevin was embarrassed by me. But I'd said yes. I'd said yes, because I wanted to believe my son still had a heart. Now, sitting in my small apartment, with Tony's words echoing in my head, I understood. Thanksgiving wasn't about family. Thanksgiving was about something else entirely. And I was going to find out exactly what. I picked up my phone and made another call, this time to my lawyer, James Park. "Margaret," he answered on the first ring. "I was just about to call you. I received an interesting email this morning. A notice from the Miami-Dade probate court. Your son has filed a petition." My stomach tightened. "A petition for what?" "Emergency conservatorship. He's claiming you lack the mental capacity to manage your financial affairs." He's attached a sworn statement from a doctor, Mitchell Brennan, a neurologist, claiming you showed signs of advanced cognitive decline during an evaluation last week. "I never saw a Dr. Brennan," I said, my voice cold. "I didn't think so." "Margaret, this is fraud. Clear cut. But here's what concerns me. The petition specifically mentions your rental properties. It claims you've been collecting rent but not reporting the income. It claims you're hoarding cash and living in squalor while you have resources. They're building a case that you're a danger to yourself." I looked around my clean, simple apartment. "Squalor. James," I said slowly. "How would Kevin know about the rental properties?" "I've never told him." There was a long pause on the other end. "Margaret, have you checked your mail recently? Any strange inquiries?" I walked to my small kitchen table where I kept my bills. Underneath the electric bill and the grocery store flyers, I found it. A letter I'd received 3 weeks ago and forgotten about. It was from the Miami-Dade property appraiser's office. A notice that my homestead exemption had been flagged for review across multiple properties. "He ran a property search," I whispered. "Kevin searched my name in the public records." "That's my guess," James confirmed. "He was fishing. And he found 15 properties registered to Margaret Chen. He just had no idea they were all paid off. He probably assumed you were in over your head, drowning in debt. So he manufactured a crisis. He hired a fake doctor," I said, the realization settling over me like ice. "We can fight this in court, Margaret. I can file a counterpetition. I can get affidavits from your real doctors. We can expose Brennan as a fraud. But this is your son. Are you sure you want to go to war?" I thought about David. About what he would want. About the promise I made him before he died. Take care of Kevin. Teach him what we built together. I'd tried. God knows I'd tried. But you can't teach someone who won't listen. You can't help someone who sees you as the problem. "Set up the property viewing tomorrow," I said. 2 p.m. at the Coral Gables building. Invite Kevin and his lawyer. Tell them the trust representative will be there to discuss the conservatorship. "Margaret, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to give my son exactly what he asked for," I said. "A meeting with the person who owns his mother's properties." The next afternoon, I took the bus to Coral Gables. Not because I had to. I have a perfectly good car. A 10-year-old Honda Civic that I keep in a garage across town. But Kevin thought his mother took the bus everywhere. So I took the bus. I got off 3 blocks from the property and walked slowly, like a woman in her 60s who'd been on her feet all day. I wore my oldest dress, the faded blue one with the small stain on the collar that I'd never quite gotten out. I carried my worn pleather purse with the broken zipper. The Coral Gables building was one of my first purchases. A small 8-unit complex I'd bought for $220,000 in 1992. It was now worth $1.8 million. Kevin's white Lexus was already parked out front. A car I knew he was leasing for $600 a month he didn't have. Next to it was a silver Mercedes. The lawyer. No doubt. I walked up the front steps slowly. Through the window, I could see Kevin in the lobby, pacing. He was wearing an expensive suit. His hair gelled back. Next to him was Crystal, my daughter-in-law, in a white jumpsuit and heels so high I marveled she could stand. She was on her phone, taking a selfie in front of the property's vintage mailboxes. I pushed open the door. The lobby was small but clean, with its original terrazzo floors and Art Deco molding. Mrs. Rodriguez, my longest tenant, was checking her mailbox. She looked up when I entered and smiled. "Mrs. Chen, I didn't know you were coming by today." Kevin's head snapped up. His eyes went wide. I let my face show confusion. Just a touch. "Kevin? Oh, honey, what a surprise. I was coming to visit Mrs. Rodriguez. It's been so long since I've seen the old building." Crystal's eyes narrowed. She looked from me to Kevin, then to the well-dressed man beside him who I assumed was the lawyer. "The old building?" Kevin said, his voice high. "Mom, do you even know where you are?" "Of course, dear. This is Mrs. Rodriguez's building. Your father and I used to come here all the time when you were little. Don't you remember?" Kevin's face went red. He looked at the lawyer, a signal passing between them. This was it. This was the evidence they needed. The confused old woman, who didn't even know she owned the building. "Mom," Kevin said, his voice dripping with false patience. "This isn't Mrs. Rodriguez's building. This building is owned by a trust. You don't live here anymore. You haven't lived here in 30 years. I blinked, like the information was hard to process. "A trust?" But David always said. "Dad's been gone for 10 years, Mom," Kevin interrupted, glancing at his lawyer again. I think maybe we should get you home. You're confused. This is exactly what we've been worried about." The lawyer stepped forward. He was young, maybe 35, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Bradley Harrison. I'm your son's attorney. Kevin has been very concerned about you. We all have. That's why we're here today. To help." "Help with what?" I asked softly. "Help you manage your affairs. Kevin mentioned you've been collecting rent from properties, but you're not quite sure where the money goes. You're not reporting income. You're living in conditions that are concerning for someone of your age. We just want to make sure you're taken care of." Mrs. Rodriguez, who was still standing by the mailboxes, made a small sound. It was something between a laugh and a gasp. "Kevin," I said, my voice trembling now, letting the emotion show. "What is he talking about? What properties?" Kevin took a step toward me. His hand landed on my shoulder, heavy and possessive. "It's okay, Mom. It's okay. We found out about the buildings. All of them. The trust, the rental income. You've been trying to manage everything by yourself, and it's too much for you." Dr. Brennan explained it. "You're not capable of handling these complex finances anymore. That's why we're here. Crystal and we're going to take over. We're going to make sure everything's done properly. We're going to take care of you." "Take over?" I repeated. "That's right." Crystal chimed in, her voice bright. She was still recording on her phone, probably for her Instagram story. "Kevin and I talked about it. You've done so much, worked so hard your whole life. It's time for you to rest. Let us handle the properties. Let us handle the money. You've earned it." The door to the property management office opened. Tony Vasquez stepped out. He wasn't smiling. "Mr. Chen," Tony said, his voice formal. "Thank you for coming. The trust representative is ready to meet with you now." Kevin's face brightened. "Finally. Yes. Let's get this sorted out." He looked at me. "Mom, why don't you sit here with Mrs. Rodriguez? This is going to be boring business talk. We'll be done soon." He was dismissing me. In what he thought was a stranger's building, in front of his lawyer and his wife. He was telling his mother to sit down and be quiet. I looked at Tony. Tony looked at me. And then I made my decision. Actually, Kevin, I said, my voice no longer shaking, no longer confused. I think I should join you. After all, I am the trust representative. The lobby went silent. Completely silent. Kevin laughed. It was a short, nervous bark. Mom, no. You're confused again. The trust representative is someone from the management company. 15 rental properties across Miami-Dade County, I continued, my voice clear and strong now. Coral Gables, South Beach, Coconut Grove, Brickell, Little Havana, Wynwood. Properties purchased between 1985 and 2015. Total current value, $8.2 million. Total annual rental income, $640,000. I pulled the leather portfolio from my large purse and set it on the lobby table. I opened it, revealing the deeds, neatly organized in plastic sleeves. Properties owned entirely, free and clear, by the Margaret and David Chen Family Trust, of which I am the sole trustee, beneficiary, and decision-maker. Bradley Harrison's mouth fell open. Crystal's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering on the terrazzo floor. And Kevin just stared at me like I was speaking a language he'd never heard before. What? He whispered. What did you just say? I pulled out the first deed and held it up. This building, purchased April 1992 for $220,000. Paid in full 1998. Current value, $1.8 million. Annual rental income, $96,000. I pulled out another deed. The South Beach property. Purchased $1,994. Current value, $1.2 million. Another deed. The Brickell condo building. Purchased 2001. Current value, $2.1 million. Kevin's face had gone from red to white to a sickly gray-green color. No, he said. His voice was small, strangled. No, that's not possible. You're a nurse. You lived in that tiny apartment. You took the bus. You clipped coupons. I still do, I said calmly. Clipping coupons is how you save money, Kevin. Taking the bus is how you avoid parking fees. Living below your means is how you build wealth. These are lessons your father tried to teach you. But you don't act like you have money, Crystal sputtered. You live in Hialeah. I choose to live simply, I said. There's a difference between poverty and humility. You never learned that difference. Bradley Harrison cleared his throat. He was trying to recover, trying to find his footing in this new, terrible reality. Mrs. Chen, even if what you're saying is true, and I'm not saying it is, the conservatorship petition stands. Your son has legitimate concerns about your mental capacity. Dr. Brennan's evaluation is fraudulent. Tony interrupted, stepping forward. He placed a folder on the table. This is Dr. Mitchell Brennan's curriculum vitae. He graduated from Ross University School of Medicine. He's currently under investigation by the Florida Department of Health for providing false medical testimony in 3 separate guardianship cases. He's not board certified in neurology. He's not board certified in anything. He's a professional liar. I looked at Kevin. My son. My only child. You paid him, didn't you? You paid him to write a report saying I have dementia. Kevin's mouth opened and closed silently. How much? I asked quietly. How much did you pay, Doctor? Brennan to lie about your mother? $5,000. Crystal suddenly blurted out. Kevin shot her a murderous look, but she was panicking now, her carefully maintained composure crumbling. We paid him $5,000, but it wasn't a lie. We knew you were confused. We knew you needed help. We were just making it official. You paid $5,000 you don't have, I said, looking at Crystal. To a fraudulent doctor, to file a false conservatorship petition against me. So you could take control of properties you didn't know I owned until 3 weeks ago. When Kevin ran an illegal property search on his own mother, I pulled another document from my portfolio. This one was newer, printed just this morning. This is a call log from Dr. Brennan's office, subpoenaed by my attorney. Kevin, you called his office 8 times in 2 weeks. You emailed him photos. Photos of me at the bus stop. Photos of my apartment. Photos you took through my window without my knowledge. Kevin was shaking his head, backing away from the table. No. This is all wrong. You're trying to make me look bad. I was trying to help you. Help me? I repeated. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the lobby like a blade. Kevin, I didn't need help. I needed a son. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had been standing silently by her mailbox this entire time, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but firm. Mrs. Chen has been my landlord for 30 years. Not once has she raised my rent unreasonably. Not once has she neglected a repair. When my husband died, she gave me 3 months free rent. When my granddaughter needed school supplies, Mrs. Chen bought them. That woman took the bus so she could keep my rent affordable. She wore old dresses so she could maintain this building. She saved every penny, not for herself, but for people like me. And for you, Kevin. For ungrateful you. The words hung in the air. Kevin looked like he'd been slapped. I think, Bradley Harrison said, his voice tight. We should discuss this privately. Kevin, Crystal, let's go. We can regroup. And there's nothing to discuss, I said. The conservatorship petition is fraudulent. It will be withdrawn by end of business today, or I will file criminal charges for conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. Those are felonies, Kevin. Real jail time. You wouldn't, Kevin whispered. Try me, I said. And for the first time, my son saw me. Really saw me. Not the tired old nurse. Not the confused mother. He saw the woman who'd built an empire from nothing. The woman who'd outlasted his father's death. Who'd survived 30 years in Miami real estate. Who'd quietly and efficiently accumulated more wealth than he would ever see in his lifetime. And he saw that I was done being underestimated. Crystal recovered first. She grabbed Kevin's arm, her voice high and urgent. Kevin, we need to go. We need to go right now. But Kevin wasn't moving. He was staring at the deeds spread across the table. At the evidence of his own staggering miscalculation. All this time, he said, his voice hollow. All this time, you had all this, and you watched me struggle. You watched me fail as a realtor. You watched me beg for loans. You could have helped me. I tried to help you, I said. My voice was tired now. I offered you a job managing these properties when you graduated college. You said it was beneath you. I offered to teach you about real estate investing. You said you'd learn on your own. I offered to co-sign your first property purchase if you put in sweat equity. You said you wanted to do it yourself, the modern way. And then you married Crystal, and you stopped asking for help. You started asking for money. There's a difference, Kevin. You should have just given it to us. Crystal spat. Her fear had turned to anger. You're old. You don't need all this. What are you going to do with $8 million? You're going to die and leave it to who? To some charity. I looked at my daughter-in-law, this woman my son had married. This woman who posted photos of luxury bags she couldn't afford while their credit cards maxed out. This woman who was, according to the private investigator's report I'd received last week, having an affair with a Miami Beach developer. Crystal, I said quietly, I know about Marcus. The color drained from her face. I know about the condo he's been paying for on Collins Avenue. I know about the photos you delete from your phone. I know about the plane tickets to Turks and Caicos that Kevin didn't buy. Kevin's head snapped toward his wife. What? What is she talking about? Crystal's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The conservatorship wasn't just about taking my properties, was it? I continued, my voice sad now. It was your exit strategy. Get control of my assets, liquidate a few properties, take the cash, and then leave Kevin for Marcus. You thought you'd hit the jackpot. That's insane, Crystal stammered, but she was backing toward the door. Kevin, she's lying. She's making this up. I have photos, I said simply. And bank records. Marcus has been paying your credit card bills, Crystal. For 6 months, Kevin turned to his wife, his face a mixture of devastation and rage. Tell me she's lying. Crystal looked at Kevin. She looked at me. She looked at Bradley Harrison. And then, without another word, she ran. She turned and ran out of the lobby, her expensive heels clicking on the terrazzo, out the door and into the parking lot. We heard a car engine start. Through the window, we watched a red Porsche squeal out of the parking lot. Not the Lexus. The Porsche belonged to Marcus. Kevin just stood there, watching his wife leave, watching his life crumble. Kevin, Bradley Harrison said quietly, I'm going to have to withdraw as your counsel. This has become a potential criminal matter. I can't. Just go, Kevin whispered. Everybody just go. The lawyer left. Tony went back into his office. Mrs. Rodriguez quietly slipped up the stairs to her apartment, and I stood there, alone with my son in the lobby of the building his father and I had bought 32 years ago. Kevin sank into one of the old lobby chairs. He put his head in his hands. I've lost everything, he said. My wife, my reputation, my last chance to have something. I sat down in the chair across from him. The same chair his father used to sit in when we'd collect rent checks, back when Kevin was small. You didn't lose everything, Kevin, I said softly. You lost things that weren't real. Crystal didn't love you. She loved what she thought you could give her. Your reputation was built on appearances, not substance. Yes, it is, he said. His voice was broken. I tried to steal from my own mother. I filed false legal papers. I paid a fake doctor. Mom, I'm going to jail. No, I said. You're not. On one condition. He looked up, his eyes red. You withdraw the conservatorship petition. You make a public apology to Dr. Brennan for using his name fraudulently. You file for divorce from Crystal. And you come work for me. Work for you? He repeated. Yes. As an assistant property manager. Minimum wage. You'll help Tony with repairs, with tenant relations, with maintenance. You'll learn this business from the ground up, the way your father and I did. You'll take the bus to properties because I'm not buying you a company car. You'll wear regular clothes because you don't need a suit to fix a leaky faucet. And you'll do this for at least 3 years before we even discuss giving you more responsibility. Kevin stared at me. Why would you do this? After everything I did? Because you're my son, I said. My voice cracked just a little. And because your father would have wanted me to give you one more chance. Not a handout, Kevin. A chance. There's a difference. We sat there in silence for a long moment. Outside, the Miami sun was starting to set, painting the lobby in shades of orange and gold. Finally, Kevin nodded. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I'll do it. Whatever you want, I'll do it. I stood up. I gathered my deeds, putting them carefully back into the leather portfolio. Good. Be at the Coconut Grove property Monday morning at 7 a.m. Bring work gloves. The gutters need cleaning. I walked toward the door, then stopped. Kevin? Yeah. Mom? Your father would be very disappointed in who you became, but he'd be proud that you're willing to start over. Don't waste this chance. I took the bus home. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because humility isn't about what you don't have. It's about what you choose not to show. The next morning, I made coffee in my small apartment. I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. I had emails to answer, maintenance requests to review, tenant applications to process. But first, I opened my photos. I scrolled back to 1985, to the picture of David and me, standing in front of our first duplex. We were so young, so hopeful, So broke. We'd built everything from nothing. And we'd done it quietly. Without fanfare. Without showing off. I'd tried to teach Kevin that. Maybe I'd failed. Or maybe he needed to lose everything to understand. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mom. I'm sorry. Really sorry. I'll be at Coconut Grove Monday at 7. I won't let you down. In the way. I won't let you down. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I typed back, don't apologize to me. Prove it. I set down my phone. Outside my window, I could hear the sounds of Hialeah waking up. The bus, pulling up to the stop. The neighbors, talking. The life I'd chosen. Not because I had to, but because it kept me humble. Because it kept me grounded. Because it reminded me where I'd come from. Kevin thought he'd lost everything. But the truth was, he'd finally been given the chance to find something real. Something earned. Something that couldn't be taken away. Whether he would take that chance, I didn't know. But I'd given it to him. And sometimes, that's all a mother can do. This story reminds us that true wealth isn't what you display, but what you build in silence. Kevin and Crystal were so focused on appearances that they never saw the real power in humility. In the end, it wasn't Margaret's money that defeated them. It was their own greed, and their assumption that someone who lives simply must be weak. If you were Margaret, would you have given Kevin a second chance? Let me know in the comments below.